Greetings, loyal minions, beautiful humans. Welcome back to the SciShow, the #1 ranked YouTube channel for people power. That's right, we have the power. And I appreciate you for allowing me to harness your power, whatever that means. I've decided to make this video. You may have recently seen a video that collaboration I made with other fellow YouTubers, telling everyone why we love the game. Now, a lot of the discussions about the game can get very negative. It's a human nature that we focus on things we want to improve. It's not always negative, but sometimes it can come across negative, and it can spiral into, this is shit, that shit. So I don't want to go down that path. What I want is a very structured approach to discussing some areas of the game which I feel could do with some improvements, whilst also acknowledging that there have been some great improvements in the recent past. So my plan is to go through, I've sort of grouped things into 5 different areas. I'm going to discuss those areas and give some suggestions. Now, what I would really love is for your feedback. So whether you agree with things, whether you have a different point of view, and any suggestions you may have. Now, I don't just want random normal suggestions of make the game cheaper, give us more heroes. So I'll get to that. Bear with me. It's a bit of a process. I just want to explain the idea behind this video first. So we actually now, for the first time ever in this game, have good communication channels with staff members where our feedback may have more impact than it has in the past. Now, I know they do their own surveys, and I know there's multiple channels. People have got feedback topics in the forum, and there's surveys, and there's this and there's that. My plan is to send not only this video, but some follow-up information to the contact we have, to then pass on to their teams to try and make any changes that we feel are necessary, and see which ones are aligning with what they feel is necessary. So we know there's also an upcoming, at some point, there's going to be an interview with the developer from Small Giant. Now, we don't know the full details about that yet. I don't know if I will or not be involved. But the time with the fact they're looking for feedback, I thought this was a great opportunity to put something together. So I'm going to try and keep it reasonably structured, which is unlike me. I've rolled things into 5 topics. I'm going to discuss those. I'm then going to ask for your feedback. Now, what I want you to share this video with everyone. The more people we can get giving it a thumbs up, giving it a like, and adding comments, then the more weight this is going to have when I pass it on. So that's the first thing. I need you all to share it with absolutely everyone. Tell any forum that you're on, any people that you talk to in the game, tell them to come and watch the video and tell them to have their say. Once I get everyone else's opinions via the comments, I'm going to then put a poll up to, again, I'll group everything into certain groups, or I'll list everything one by one. I'll put a poll up. What we can then do is pick the most important thing to us, and I can then use that to send off to Small Giant to show them. So it's basically doing their survey work for them, but I feel rather than them mass producing a survey, sending it out to all their players, and half the players just filling it in to get a free item and having random feedback, this keeps it very, very structured. So in a way, I'm doing their work for them, but I feel it has a chance to benefit all of us. So that's my introduction to what I'm doing. I hope that all makes sense. I'm trying not to dwell on the past. So there's certain things where I may, and I'll probably say it here and there, that it's like, oh, that should have been done ages ago. Well, it wasn't. There's no point dwelling on those things. So let's move forward and try to find a better way. First of all, I just want to go over some things so we actually have an understanding that it's not just as simple as making these changes. So obviously the game has its own beta system. It has, the business is going to have processes they need to go through to make changes. And when we come along and just say, "I'll just do this," we want something new. Well, unfortunately, the nature of the world is that the game can't just have a new event every week. Like, so much work, so much effort, so much time goes into creating these things, testing them, making sure it doesn't create imbalances. We all remember what happened with Teluria, and Vela, and Gravemaker. Certain things can lead to bigger problems, which then, regardless of how you try to fix the problem, you never win because there's always someone that's unhappy. So we can't just implement new stuff every week. The other thing to consider is the game is a business. It needs to make money. It's just a fact. Without making money, the game's not going to exist. So we all love the game. We all want it to continue, and we all want it to thrive as much as it can. It's a long-term game. Some people have been playing for 7 to 8 years or however long it's been out for. It's extremely difficult to balance things between a new player and an old player or a long-term player. So someone that's got hundreds of heroes, has done everything in the game, it's very difficult to implement something in the game that's going to be, I use the treasure quest as a prime example. Some people hate it because it's impossible to finish, but it's quite easy for the top level players. So whilst the top level players are asking for challenging things, the Titans are another example. These are positive changes in the game, but as soon as the Titans came out and they were harder, people were complaining, "Oh, but they're harder and we're not getting better rewards." So, and keep in mind, there are things already happening in the background with things such as Titans. The Titans are going to be weakened a little bit, and I think there's going to be some bonus loot. So, as I said, it's a fantastic time because Small Giant are listening. So, just wanted to keep that in mind. There's a time and investment to test things. I also believe Small Giant are in that challenging time of, we went years without really having much community engagement. There wasn't a lot of changes. There wasn't a lot of seeking feedback and that type of thing. So I think it's in that very tough time of trying to change that reputation and start that engagement with its players to get the view of the players after that long period. So I believe it's very difficult to change reputation very quickly because everyone has that negative mindset. So to keep that in mind, try to be positive. I like to live life with a bit of a mantra of presume positive intent. We can get very frustrated very easily at certain times. And I think sometimes if we just have that in mind, that, and it's not always a case, don't get me wrong, but if you just presume that the other person or the other party starts with a positive intent, then it does make things a lot easier to try and work with them and do things. Anyway, I'm rambling. The other thing I find interesting is the quality of life versus people spending time in the game. So something I will mention later as well is the collect all button that's sitting here at the Stronghold now. If you have the VIP, you can't see it because I've already clicked it, but it collects all your resources. Fantastic. And this is one of the things that should have been in the game ages ago and it wasn't. Now it is. Should it be there for everyone? And how does that... So when we play the game, we don't have all the data that the company has on what's happening in the back end. So with a mobile game, obviously you need people to be in the game. You want them in the game as often as possible. So the fact that I need to come here and click on my things to collect everything, what is the advantage of that to the game as opposed to clicking one button to collect it? Because it means I spend less time in the game. So therefore, we need something else in the game to help us spend time in the game. I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to get those out. I feel those are probably the main challenges the game is facing when it comes to implementing changes. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that before we move into some of the categories I'm going to discuss. I will also mention I was going to put some nice graphics and et cetera, but I felt it was easier to do this in the game. So I do apologize. There's nothing exciting to look at the moment apart from my base. But there are certain things where I will need to be in game. So I felt it was just easier to do the whole thing in the game. Very first thing I want to discuss is quality of life. So the quality of life are the little changes in game that make life easier, basically. So we've seen it recently. There's been some excellent advancements in heroes. So we've now got the filter button. We can search, we can filter. this makes life so much easier. If I'm looking for a hero in a raid, like quite often, if I'm looking for a hero, and I know there's some people that don't like me scrolling too quickly, but you can. How much time do we spend looking through the roster, looking for a certain hero, going past it, going back, trying to find it? So easy now. If I want to put in dagger, bang, dagger, done, and there he is. Quickly reset it. You can filter it. You can sort it. Fantastic. Love it. So these are sort of things that I'm talking about when it comes to quality of life. So leveling the heroes. We can now select all. Where's a hero that's level up? Auto. Fantastic. The collect all I've mentioned earlier. So some areas where I think this can be improved even further. And again, feel free to add your comments. I want as many comments as we can get on this video to give me the options to put into the poll afterwards. One thing I would love is further options on the heroes. So just to prove a point, I know I have to scroll quickly, but this is how long it takes me to go through my heroes. And I know I've got a larger roster. I know I can go straight to the bottom. But I believe we need, and again, I think there's work being done at the moment on locking certain heroes, so you can lock them to go to the top, not just the teams that we already see at the top, but we can actually lock them. So even after those teams are displayed, I can lock certain heroes to stay at the top. I'd love to be able to hide certain heroes that I don't use anymore. Maybe have a couple of different hero tabs where I can have whether it shows all the 5 stars separately to 4 stars. I know you can do that in your filter, but whether it's just a tab on the screen that I can just click and instantly go to the 4 stars or instantly go to unleveled heroes, whatever it may be, I would love a little bit more work done there. I believe we possibly need more teams. I know you can purchase these, but I feel with the amount of heroes in the game now that perhaps it's time to expand some of these things so we can actually, as an example, storing our war teams. So in war, you have to go through and pick your heroes again. Your teams don't automatically stay there. Something like that would just make it so much easier every single time we play the game. And I'm not going to, this isn't an exhaustive list. I'm not going to list every single possible thing. I am only human. So I'm just going to put a few ideas in each, and then we'll let everyone's creative juices flow. We'll love creative juices flowing. And we'll see what else we can come up with. So the other one that I would really like, and this has a couple of different sides to it, is these crates here. So you can see I've got 98 small bundles of iron. Now I can use those one by one. Now if I want to build that iron up, do I really want to be sitting here wasting the most important part of my life, clicking this button over and over again to get iron? Surely we can have a little multiplier there that I can click plus, 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 and use as many of those as I want in one transaction. That's to me, that would make life so much easier. Again, this is going to be different for upper level as opposed to newer and mid-level players. When it comes to leveling heroes, you go through a lot of the ham and iron, and you need to be constantly doing it. The other side of that is being able to store your iron and ham. So when you get to excesses, at the moment, I'm not. But when I've got my ham and iron full, you generally need to come down to one of your buildings and basically store iron and ham by trading. So you can see there I've got 98 days. If I needed to withdraw some of that, as you can see, when I go minus, I'm getting more ham back. I wish with excess ham and excess iron, you could store in a crate. So as soon as you start going over, you can click a button and say, yes, I want to make a crate of 500 ham, and bang, it puts it into your storage. So you're not wasting it and you're not spending ridiculous amounts of time adding and removing things from your buildings to get ham or iron. Okay, that's as much as I'm going to say. This could be a 6-hour long video. I'm pretty sure everyone would hate that. So I'm going to move on. The next part I'm going to talk about is Dragonspire. So this is just a whole topic by itself. So I feel Dragonspire, excuse me, enjoyed a great launch. It was actually, I think, more popular than anyone realized it was going to be when it launched. However, since then, it has been a little stale. There's been some great improvements. I think the Underroot event is fantastic. Apart from that, there haven't been a lot of changes. The map is releasing slowly. That's okay. That's neither here nor there. But I feel we could do a little bit more. So a couple of questions I'm going to pose to start with is, should the dragon items cost the same as the main game? So if we jump into some of these deals, we can see this would be a similar deal. So we've got 2,000 gems, 3 summons, and some random ascension items. $30. Considering the dragons is a sort of offshoot to the main game, there's very little crossover. We've seen that happening with the recent Skyfire War, which I think was great, and a lot of other people also enjoyed when the initial feedback was looking bad. But I feel there may be an opportunity to get a bit more of a crossover, more so in the items. So at the moment, the only items you really receive from playing Dragonspire that affect the main game are through the shipment and the experience that you're gaining, which is all great. However, I just feel that, one, I'm not sure the items should cost the same, because to me it's just an addition to the main game. So I believe that could create more people playing and enjoying and spending smaller amounts. And especially if you're going to receive more items from Dragonspire that helped you in the main game. Now, how far that goes, I don't know. I don't know whether we need to say, oh, well, can I as an example, could you transform a legendary dragon into a legendary hero? Or should they have two sides of them? So each dragon is actually also a hero. So it gives you more reason to be summoning a dragon. So say I come in here and summon Bonefang, well, I can just click a simple button here that actually turns him into a normal hero that I can use in the normal game that is as good as the current heroes. That's an idea. To me, that just creates a lot more reason to be playing dragons, and then gives you that crossover without having to have dragons to cross over, if that makes sense. It just means you're pulling a dragon and a hero at the same time. The other thing I feel that we need in Dragonspire is just something different in the map. Like if I come in here and play a map, it's exactly the same as playing a map stage in the normal game. So do I really need more brainless farming? Yes, the tiles are slightly different because you've got those super tiles, but is that enough? Like, I personally believe we need a reason to come into Dragonspire, whether it's every day or every week, and whether it's some sort of tag team effort against a Titan type dragon, or it's some sort of team event. I just feel maybe an alliance event every week. Like it doesn't have to be a big thing like Alliance Quest. Just something that you come in and it's a weekly. It could be a weekly Titan. So there's just one big dragon, and over the week you just get one hit per day or 2 hits per day that you come in and hit the big dragon. And again, those rewards could be a mix of dragon items and normal game items to help people out. That's, I think, all I will say about the Dragon World. Again, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree with mine, and we'll take it from there. On to my next category, which I am calling Heroes and Mechanics. So a lot of people look at my roster and say, it's amazing. I've got so many heroes. You know, we know I spend money. I'm not going to hide that. I don't know how much money I spend. I don't track it. I don't mind spending money in the game. To me, it's an entertainment product, and it's no different than me going to spend, it costs me $40 or whatever to go and watch a movie at the cinema. by the time I buy all the chocolate, let's be honest, it's probably $35 of chocolate and $5 for the ticket. But I don't mind spending money on the game. I put a lot of time and effort into the game. Recently, the game's broadened me to the YouTube world, where I've got an amazing community of people that I can interact with. So it's not as silly as just saying, "Oh, well, I spend money on a game." I'm happy to invest in something because it adds to my life in that way. If that makes me lame, so be it. But on the topic of heroes, people will say, "Oh, you've got so many heroes." I'm just going to do a quick scroll through the museum. We can see there I have 1/3, basically, of the total heroes available. There are so many heroes in the game. There are so many heroes we have that we never use anymore. I know we get some costumes. I know there's some things happening that may, but especially with the 5-stars, I would say I probably only have 1/3 of the 5-stars. So for someone that's probably seen to have a very, very good roster, you can see here in the 5-stars, there are so many that I just don't have. So what is the answer? We can't just say stop releasing heroes. Do we cap it? Do we just say, look, 1 hero a week is enough? A new family, do we release 3, 4, 5 when it first comes out? I don't have the data, and this is where, as a business, they need to look at the data they're getting, and of course they're going to do whatever makes more money. That's where we also have control. Anyone who spends, you can control, okay, well, I'm actually not going to pull at every single portal, or whatever it may be. I know there's going to be whales that will continue to pull at everything. But you can see here with the 4-stars, especially, and the 3-stars would be very similar. I'm virtually not missing any heroes. So we can tell that most of the ones I don't have are 5-stars. So again, out of that, there's around about 850 or whatever, the 890 odd that I don't have. They are all 5-stars basically. So probably 800 5-stars that I do not have. That is a crazy amount. How do we fix that? Some ways I can see would be to have something similar to a soul exchange, but a little more frequently, and or something that was constant, where you can, even if it was a chance, I'd probably take a chance. I can put 5 heroes into a cauldron, and there's an 80% chance I'm going to get a 5-star. It doesn't have to be a brand new 5-star, but it could be something where you get to choose. Again, the game needs to balance that with how much revenue they may lose from it, or whether it's actually not going to lose revenue at all. Could it be that I would be happy to do with this, but could it be that I actually donate legendary heroes that new players can then access? Whether it doesn't even have to be me giving it to a specific person. I would be happy to put my legendary heroes that I don't use into a pool that new players could access, and maybe every new player gets 1 or 2 legendary heroes. Because a big challenge of the game is getting those new players in. And I've probably mentioned that elsewhere, and I'll probably mention it again, but the difference between new players and older players. So how do we help them compete? How do we keep them in the game? And maybe, as I said, recycling 5-stars. It's just an option. It's something out there. So on top of the heroes, excuse me, the mechanics of the heroes. Do we want more, or do we need less? Some people hark back to the early days and how easy it was. You had defense down heroes, you had attack up heroes, you had some dodge hero, you had some counter attack. There was a handful of different skills. Now with all the passives, with all the family bonuses, with all the special skills, is it too many? Do we need to limit that, but then somehow make them work better? In my opinion, I think we need to limit it to a degree, but I would also like to see more sort of not so obvious synergies. Synergy is a word that a lot of people in the game use a lot. I think it's overused, even though I say it. Some of the synergies are so obvious that they're not synergies. It's just the way, like using a defense down hero and then a hero that attacks everyone. It's not. I mean, it's a synergy, but it's really not. It's utilizing heroes' skills. That's what their skills are for. But there's certain things where heroes may not seem that they work well together, but they can. So anyway, I would like to see more of that. I've mentioned before my family theory. I would love to see families limited to 5, 10, or 15, probably at the most, so that there's 5 that actually make more sense to pair together. The family bonus may work differently. I would like to see that become a little more complex in you might have, and it's also got to work with the way that people play. So I've mentioned before having a hero of each color and then some sort of synergy between that. But maybe we need to say, well, if you pair 3 red heroes of this family together, you're going to get elemental defense down against the enemy or something along those lines. Again, let me know your thoughts. Do you like some of what I'm talking about? Or am I just dribbling? That's wrapping up for heroes and mechanics. The next category I'm putting in is just value. So what value are we getting? I work in an area, it's an interesting role that at times I've had to explain to people. There were huge price changes for certain reasons. And a lot of people would say, oh, but it cost me so much more than it did 3 years ago. And the way I respond to that is, I understand. Look, I put on a nice face, but and this is only a very small part of my job. It's not my whole job. My job's mostly analytical. But I talk about value for money. It doesn't matter how much you paid 3 years ago. It doesn't matter how much you think you should be paying. But are you getting value for money? That's the question. I try to assess everything I purchase, whether it's necessities, bread, milk, whatever. Am I getting value for money? I'm going to buy something that I feel is good value for money. So are we getting value for money with the game? Some of the smaller transactions, and I've seen people say that this game has so much to purchase. I've played it's the normal thing for a mobile game. I've played other games. I recently started another game that's just similar to something I used to play years ago. And there's so many things to buy in the game. It's crazy. I've not spent a cent, but it seems a very simple game, but there are so many things you can purchase. I think every game is similar. So I don't think it's as simple saying, oh, they're just money hungry. There's so many deals. I get that. But what sort of deals do we want to see? Is it more microtransactions? Is it a deal that we've seen recently, but something where we're happier to pay a guaranteed sum for a guaranteed result? These types of things. It might just be one deal a month where you can purchase a hero for $50. Is that good value? How much money do we spend chasing heroes and not getting them? It could be a hero that's not quite at the top of the range, but it's something that other people may need. So that's something to do with the value. And also when it comes to leveling heroes, I know there's been some recent changes, but I would love to see it become even quicker to level a hero. I am not a fan of spending however much money I need to spend to pull a particular hero. And then in some cases, especially if you're, again, a lower level or mid-level, it's how long does it take you to be able to utilize that hero? Shout out to Mr. Chief. Mr. Chief runs a great section of the forum that analyzes all the deals that come out, which ones are good value, which ones may not be better than the normal price, etc., etc. So shout out to my frenemy, Mr. Chief. We love to hate each other, or we hate to love each other, one of the two. But to level, if you just got a hero today and you wanted to level it, and I'm not even talking about the ham and the feeders, but if you purchased the 4-star Ascension material, so things like your Damascus Blade, your Tome of Tactics, and your rings or telescopes, etc. If you purchased the large 5-star aethers that you need to ascend to limit break, and you purchased 10 alpha aethers at normal prices, and there's obviously other little items that you need in there as well. But if you just purchase those main items, and I know the game gives them to you, so don't get me wrong, you can take the time and you can get these for free. But if you purchased all those items to instantly level your hero, and again, this is without ham and experience, it's probably around about $95 to $100 for one hero. Now, again, and that comes into what deals are available. You may not be able to buy what you need, so you have to wait, and you may get other items as part of those deals. That's sort of basically the number you're looking at. So $100 for each one. I don't need to say anything, do I? That it speaks for itself. So how do we make that a little bit easier? I know we've got that power portal that gives you double limit broken, but again, it only works on older heroes and that type of thing. So I think this is a great topic to discuss because, as I said, I know it's a business. They need to make money. I don't hold that against them. But how can we help to suggest, how can we then support? So we need to be supporting. If we come out with ideas and they implement something that matches that, we need to support it. I love the deals where you can give things to your alliance members, as an example. However, I feel a lot of them don't quite give you the value they need. Do many of us really need these 3-star items? So, it could just be a fact that we need to have better items in these deals so we can spread the love a little bit more. That's what I'll say there. I do realise this is dragging on a little bit. Thanks for everyone who's sticking with me. If you do enjoy what I'm doing, gently caress the subscribe button. Give your kitty a script for me. And my last topic is going to be gameplay and events. So again, this is something that there has been work on, but I feel we can really improve this area. And again, I'd love to hear what sort of events people want. When we go to the maps, we've got 5 different seasons. We've got Untold Tales. So I don't even want to think of how many map stages there are. I would say it would be in the thousands. And they are all the same, in essence. And I understand that the game is a particular game, but it's the same as, okay, I've got to match tiles. Occasionally we get these weird little tiles or we have some weird little rules that things happen, but I don't think that's enough. I would love something totally different in the gameplay. Now, whether that is something where you can attack as a team, so I can take 5 of my heroes, but also 5 of someone else's in the alliance, and you both battle together. I don't know what it is. It could be where the board's a triangle rather than a square, just something a little more different than what we've got, because between dragons and all these map stages, I feel that anytime there's an event like an alliance quest, which we currently have, I find these extremely not boring, but it's almost like it's hard work to have to do it. It's like, oh, wow, I have to go and do alliance quest. It's just more of the same. So, again, give me your options. What do you want? It could be where you have heroes on both sides of the enemy and you've got 2 separate boards you can play. I know these could be really big changes for the game. I understand that, and it's not as simple as I've mentioned earlier. Moving on from that, again, this is where it comes to newer players versus older players. Do we have different leagues? And I know there's the different raid leagues, but do we actually have basically, do we chop it into 3 different games where until your overall power gets to this thing, you actually just never ever face anyone that's ridiculously stronger than you? Do we give some sort of discount? So if someone comes up against my team that's, say, 8,000 team power, but their team is only 4,000, does it actually automatically reduce my power by 20%? So it's a fairer battle. What are things we can do? And I'm not talking about wars, that's a totally different thing. But just when it comes to raiding, Do we actually limit those teams? I don't like limiting the team power, but I wouldn't mind having a percentage cut off my team. If someone's attacking me with a 6,000 team, then I wouldn't mind if my 8,000 team had 10%, handicap applied to it, so to speak. Again, give me your options. I just think it's something that scares a lot of early players off when they come across these strong teams. It's no way I'm ever going to compete. So again, that's where the recycled 5-star heroes could come into it, but we could also be giving boosts to the new players' teams or handicapping the older players when someone new goes against it, or cutting it into leagues. As I said, you may have 3 very clear sections where until you get to level 70, you can't play above, whatever it may be. There's different ways we could do it. There's no perfect solution. Let me put that out there as well. I'm happy for anyone to tell me my ideas are stupid. They're just things that roll through my head. Things like War of Three Kingdoms. How do we improve this? We know that it's annoying because people don't use flags. We get some items out of it. Items are always good, but do we want, do the items need to be better? Instead of having 100 random people, do we maybe just mix 3 different alliances together? So you're still playing for your own alliance. Do we need to drop the amount of battles? Is 12 more raids too many? Monster Island, similar. So I think with War of Three Kingdoms, maybe drop those amount of battles. But as I said, maybe it would be better if you just mixed 3 alliances together so you're still all playing for your own alliance, but there's just 3 of you. Gives you more reason to want to use those flags. There'll be more interaction. What other options do we have? Monster Island, another prime example. I think the other thing with these events is they need to be regular. We need to understand exactly when they're going to come. I know we get the calendars, a month in advance sometimes. And I know that Small Giant are making changes to these events, and that's why they're not always on that schedule. But it would be great to have some sort of a regular schedule so the alliances know what they're getting in for and what's coming up. So I personally like Monster Island, but again, are the hordes? Is it just too many hordes? Is it something where we should give rewards not only based on the final outcome, but for the amount of time people are putting in? I would love to have some sort of, and I know these things can be sort of cheated a little bit, but I'd love to have something where you might just have a hero meter that builds up. So the more you play the game, and it might only be once a month, but if you put in 2 hours a day on the game, and I don't just mean sitting there idle, it could be based on your experience, like how much your experience you're getting or how many raids you're doing. But whatever it is, you've got a little meter, and at the end of that meter, it fills up and you get a hero. And again, it may not be one of the absolute best heroes, so I don't feel the company needs to lose revenue out of this. Those heroes can be different depending on your level, but it could be that, again, once a month, if you play 2 hours a day, you fill up your little meter and you get to pick a hero, or you get to pick an ascension item. It could be something like the Goblin Balloon, where it gives you a choice of what you pick. You could have a hero, you could have an ascension item, or you could have some free loot tickets, or whatever it may be. But actually reward for playing the game that's separate to everything else. Hope that makes sense. I think that's about as much as I'll say. Thanks again for sticking with me. I really believe there is a chance for this to actually have a positive impact on the game. So, as I mentioned, share it with everyone you know. Tell everyone to come and watch it. Tell everyone to put their comments in. Give it as many thumbs up as we can, because if we can show the developers, show the contacts we have at Small Giant that we are all on the same page and these are things that are going to help the game, it only takes one. It takes one change to happen and for that to have a positive impact. So if the developers make a change that we've asked for and it actually helps, then that's where it just keeps improving that relationship and gives us more and more power to actually shape the way that we want the game to go. So give it a like, share the crap out of it, spam it everywhere you can. I don't care if you get in trouble. Go out on the street and flash naked with it tattooed all over your body. Put it on your OnlyFans channels. Whatever we need to do. Give me a comment. What will happen in a few days' time? I'm going to go through all the comments I get. I'll go through some of the things I've suggested and I'll make some sort of poll, and then we can vote on, it might just be creating a top three. These are the top 3 areas of the game we want looked at, or these are the top 3 specific things we want implementing in the game. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all more than ever. I feel extremely lucky to be able to do these types of things and have people listen to me dribble. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy war. Give your kitty another scritch for me, and have a good one.